The call came just after sunset, the kind of evening when fatigue blurs time. Maya sat in silence, half sunk into her couch, the TV off, the hum of the refrigerator louder than her thoughts. Then her phone lit up. Tom Ellison. She hesitated before answering, already sensing the ask in his voice. "Maya." "Perfect timing," he said brightly, the background noise of clinking glasses betraying his comfort. "Laura and I finally booked that vacation. We just need you to watch the kids for the week. You're so good with them." Her laugh was dry. "Tom, I work nights. You know that. Come on," he said, easy as always. "It's family. You don't even have kids. It's not like you're busy every night." That last line cut through her. He never meant to sound cruel, or maybe he did. She could picture him, standing in that bright kitchen, full of warmth he didn't earn. "Tom, I can't do this right now," she said quietly. He sighed. "You've always been dramatic, Maya. Just say yes." When the call ended, the apartment felt smaller. She stared at the phone until the screen went black, the reflection of her own tired eyes looking back like someone she didn't recognize. The next morning came with gray light and a restless ache. Maya poured stale coffee into a chipped mug and scrolled through messages she didn't want to read. Tom had sent photos. The beach resort, the plane tickets, the smiling emojis. She stared at the words, "You're the best, sis," and felt something tighten in her chest. For years, she'd swallowed these small cuts, convincing herself that keeping the peace meant keeping the family together. But her peace had never mattered to anyone but her. She looked around her tiny kitchen. The unpaid bills, the fridge half empty, the exhaustion that never left. Somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice whispered that this time would be different. By lunchtime, her phone buzzed again. This time it was Laura. "Hey, Maya, just wanted to confirm everything for next week." Her voice was honey sweet, almost performative. Maya pressed the phone to her ear, her stomach nodding. Laura listed the kids' routines, Sam's soccer practice, Emma's bedtime songs, as if Maya had already agreed. She nodded silently, the kind of agreement that came from exhaustion, not choice. The call ended with Laura saying, "You're a lifesaver." The words hung in the air like smoke, the kind that chokes before it fades. Maya set the phone down and whispered to herself, "Not this time." That night, sleep refused her. She wandered to the framed photo on her dresser. She and Thomas' kids, covered in sand, their mother laughing behind them. She could still hear her mother's voice. "You look after each other, no matter what." Back then, it had sounded like love. Now it felt like a sentence. Maya sat on the edge of her bed, the city's faint hum outside the window. Maybe that promise was never meant to break, but maybe it already had. When morning came again, Maya called Tom. Her voice was calm, almost steady. "I can't do it," she said simply. Silence stretched, heavy and loaded. Then came his sharp exhale. "You're unbelievable, Maya." Mom would be ashamed. That word, mom, hit harder than anything else. It wasn't just guilt. It was history. But she didn't flinch this time. "No," she said quietly. She'd be tired too. She hung up before he could answer. For the first time in years, the silence afterward felt like freedom. The rumble of Tom's SUV broke the quiet of Maya's apartment complex. She watched from the window as the car door swung open, and two small figures tumbled out, bright backpacks bouncing against the dull morning air. Tom's voice followed, cheerful and commanding, the same tone he used when he wanted the world to bend his way. "Come on, kids, Aunt Maya's waiting," he called, as if she'd invited this. When the knock came, she hesitated before opening the door. Sam rushed in first, arms open, a burst of innocence that cracked her guard for just a moment. Emma followed, clutching a stuffed rabbit, wide eyes studying Maya like she wasn't sure if she was welcome. Tom stood behind them, sunglasses perched on his head, phone in hand. Everything's written down. You'll be fine, he said, already half-turned toward his car. Maya nodded, silent, watching him go. When the car disappeared, she realized her apartment had never felt this full or this empty. Inside, chaos arrived in the form of tiny footsteps and endless chatter. Sam darted around the room, discovering everything with the curiosity of a child raised in comfort. Emma climbed onto the couch, holding her rabbit like a shield. Maya stood in the kitchen doorway, watching them, unsure how to belong in this sudden burst of family. She poured juice into mismatched glasses, the clink echoing louder than she expected. When Sam asked, "Why doesn't Uncle Tom ever visit you?" she froze. The question wasn't cruel, just innocent, the kind that pierced through walls built over years. Maya knelt beside him and said softly, "Sometimes people just grow apart." By evening, the kids had made themselves at home. The scent of microwaved pasta filled the air, and a half-hearted movie flickered on the TV. Maya sat between them, feeling the distance between her exhaustion and their laughter. Sam leaned against her shoulder mid-scene, murmuring something about superheroes. Emma fell asleep before the credits rolled, tiny breaths against Maya's arm. She stared at their faces, peaceful, unbothered, and felt the old ache of what could have been. Somewhere between their trust and her silence, she realized she wasn't angry at them. She was angry at the part of herself that kept saying yes. Later that night, after she carried Emma to bed and turned off the lights, Maya found Tom's note on the counter. A list of helpful tips, written in his familiar, careless scrawl. "Remember, Emma hates crusts." One line read. "Sam gets cranky if bedtime's late." She ran her finger down the page and stopped at the last line. "Thanks for doing this. You owe me one." A bitter laugh escaped her before she could stop it. That line, so casual, carried years of history, every unpaid favor, every dismissed apology. She folded the note once, twice, until it fit neatly into her palm. Then she dropped it into the trash. Before dawn, Maya woke to the sound of rain against the windows. She stepped into the hallway, the soft rhythm guiding her toward the children's room. Both slept soundly. Emma curled beneath a blanket of cartoon stars. Sam sprawled across his pillow, mouth open in a dream. She lingered at the doorway, arms crossed, feeling something shift inside her. It wasn't resentment now. It was clarity. These kids didn't choose the way things were. Neither had she. Maybe this week wasn't about saying yes to Tom. Maybe it was about finally deciding what she would never say yes to again. The third morning arrived with sunlight sharp as judgment. Maya brewed coffee, half listening to the children's laughter from the living room, when her phone began to buzz, Tom's name flashing like an alarm. She hesitated, then answered. His voice came through loud and carefree, surf sounds behind him. "Hey, just checking in. How's my favorite sister doing?" She smiled without meaning it. "We fine, Tom," he laughed. "See, I knew you'd handle it. Laura says hi." "Oh, can you take Sam to practice later? I forgot to mention that." "Forgot." The word stuck. Her knuckles whitened on the mug. "You're on vacation, Tom." "Tom, maybe you could call your kids," she said, her tone sharper than intended. He chuckled, then sighed, that heavy, patronizing sigh. "Maya, don't start. You always make things harder than they are." The call ended with his laughter echoing in her ear. The sound followed her long after the line went dead. That afternoon, Maya took Sam to the field. The sun blazed against metal bleachers, children's shouts echoing across the park. Sam ran with his teammates, laughter carrying like wind. She sat on the sidelines, trying to shake Tom's voice from her mind. A mother beside her glanced over, smiling politely. "Which one's yours?" she asked. Maya hesitated. "My nephew." The woman nodded. "You look like you love him," she said, and turned back to the game. Maya watched Sam miss a goal, pick himself up, and try again. Love wasn't the problem. It was everything that came with it. That evening, as the kids ate dinner, her phone buzzed again. A message this time. "Send me a picture of them. Laura wants an update." She stared at the text, then looked across the table at Sam, telling stories with pasta sauce on his chin, Emma giggling quietly beside him. She snapped a picture. A moment later, Tom replied, "Perfect. You're such a lifesaver." Mom would be proud. The words hit differently now. Heavy and hollow. Maya felt something twist in her chest. He always used their mother like a weapon wrapped in nostalgia. She locked her phone, set it face down, and forced a smile for the children. But inside, something had finally started to crack. After the kids fell asleep, Maya sat on the floor beside the couch, scrolling through old photos. Tom with his kids at Christmas, Tom with their mother years before she passed. Her thumb hovered over one image. The three of them, smiling after the will was signed. She remembered the truth she'd buried. How Tom had pushed her to give up her share, promising handle everything. He never did. Her eyes burned. She whispered to the empty room, "You took everything, Tom. Everything but the guilt." And now he wanted more. Her time, her kindness, her silence. The weight of it pressed down, heavy as the night around her. The next morning, Tom called again, but this time she didn't answer. The phone buzzed on the counter until it fell silent. She looked at it once, then turned away, heart steady for the first time in years. She dressed the kids, tied Emma's shoes, packed their lunch. Sam asked if his dad would call today. Maya paused, then knelt to his level. "He's busy right now," she said softly, "but you've got me today." "That's enough, okay," Sam nodded. Emma smiled sleepily, and as they stepped outside, the air felt lighter. Not because the storm was over, but because she finally knew it was coming. Tom returned on a Thursday evening unannounced. Maya heard the knock before she saw the car, his familiar rhythm. 3 sharp taps that always sounded like ownership. When she opened the door, he stood there with that same polished grin, tanned and rested, a souvenir bag in hand like it could erase everything. "Hey, superstar," he said, breezing past her into the living room. "How'd they behave?" Sam ran to him, arms wide. Emma clung to Maya's leg before following. Tom laughed. "Hair still damp from travel. See, they survived. Told you you'd be great." Maya forced a smile. "You could've called." He looked up, caught off guard. "I did. You didn't answer." "Yeah," she said quietly. "I know." Something in her tone made him pause. For the first time, he really looked at her and saw she wasn't the same sister who always said yes. They sat across from each other after the kids were tucked into bed, the air thick with unspoken things. Tom scrolled his phone, pretending calm. Maya's hands trembled as she folded laundry that wasn't hers. Finally, she said, "Do you remember Mom's will?" His fingers froze mid-scroll. "What about it? You said you'd handle the bills, that you'd make things fair." He sighed, leaned back, the charm fanning. "Maya, that was years ago. You can't still be hung up on that." Her voice stayed low. "I paid everything, Tom. Her hospital, her funeral, the debt. You didn't handle anything." Silence. Then his reply, sharp and small. "You're being dramatic again." And that was when she knew. He'd never admit it, because admitting it meant losing control. Tom stood, pacing now. "You always bring up the past when you can't handle the present," he said. His tone carried that old superiority, the one that had followed her since childhood. Maya rose too, her voice shaking but sure. "The past is the present, Tom. You keep pretending it isn't, but you built your life on what I gave up." He turned toward her, jaw tight. "You think I owe you? I've got a family to take care of." She met his eyes. "You always had a family. You just never cared who kept it standing. For a heartbeat." They stared at each other, brother and sister, both shaped by the same ghosts, standing in the wreckage of what their mother's love used to mean. The argument spilled into the kitchen. Words turned sharp, truth slipping out faster than regret. "You think you're a martyr," Tom snapped. "Mom made her choice. She trusted me." Maya laughed bitterly. "She trusted me to protect you. She made me promise, Tom. She told me to keep you safe, even if it meant giving up everything." He froze. "What are you talking about?" "She changed the will that night," Maya said, voice breaking. "She wanted us to split everything. You begged me not to tell her you'd lost your job. You said she couldn't know. And when she died, I let you have it all so you wouldn't fall apart." For the first time, Tom had no answer. Only silence. The storm outside matched the silence inside. Tom sank into a chair, staring at the floor, his voice a whisper. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Maya leaned against the counter, exhausted. "Because I wanted to believe you'd earn it. That you'd remember what I gave up." He looked up, eyes red, not from guilt but confusion. The kind of confusion that comes when truth doesn't fit the story you've told yourself. "I didn't know," he said softly. "I know," Maya replied. "That's the problem." Outside, thunder rolled. Inside, everything finally went still. Morning crept in pale and heavy. The house felt hollow, the argument still hanging in the air like smoke. Tom had slept on the couch. Maya hadn't slept at all. The kids woke early, unaware of the storm that had passed through their small world. Emma padded into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. "Aunt Maya, Daddy's still here," she said softly, like it was something fragile. Maya turned, managing a smile. "Yeah, sweetheart, he's here." Tom appeared in the doorway, face drawn, voice low. "Can we talk?" She nodded, gesturing toward the table. But as they sat, neither spoke. The silence between them wasn't war anymore. It was the quiet that comes after something breaks, and neither side knows how to rebuild it. Tom tried first. "I didn't know how much you did," he said, voice uneven. "I thought." Mom wanted it that way. Maya looked at him, her expression unreadable. "You didn't want to know. That's not the same thing." He nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the table. "You're right." The words came out rough, small, like he wasn't used to saying them. He took a breath. "I can fix it. We'll figure something out." But Maya wasn't sure she believed in fixing anymore. Some things didn't need mending. They just needed letting go. Later, Tom gathered his things while the children played in the hallway. Maya helped Emma find her shoes, tying each lace carefully, memorizing the sound of their laughter. When Tom lifted their bags, she saw hesitation in his posture, the first crack of humility she'd ever witnessed in him. At the door he turned. "Maya, I don't know how to thank you." She smiled faintly. "Start by not asking me to save you anymore." He nodded, a quiet understanding passing between them. Then he left, the echo of the door closing sounding less like an ending and more like release. When the door shut, the silence didn't hurt anymore. Maya walked through the apartment slowly, collecting small traces of their presence. A toy left on the couch, a child's drawing taped to the wall. The stillness felt unfamiliar but not empty. For the first time, it belonged to her. She made herself coffee and sat by the window. The rain had cleared. Outside, children played in the courtyard, laughter echoing through the clean morning air. She thought of her mother, not the guilt or the promises, but the warmth beneath it all. Maybe keeping someone safe didn't always mean holding them up. Sometimes it meant stepping back and letting them fall. That evening, the phone rang again, Tom's name glowing on the screen. Maya let it ring once, twice, before answering. His voice was soft. "Hey, the kids miss you already." She smiled, resting her head against the window. "Tell them I miss them too." A pause. "And Maya," he said, "thank you for everything." This time she believed him. After the call, She watched the city lights blink to life beyond the glass. For years, she'd lived beneath someone else's shadow, mistaking silence for strength. But now, in the quiet glow of her own space, she understood. Freedom didn't come from walking away. It came from finally being seen. Days passed quietly. The apartment felt different now. Lighter, as if something invisible had been lifted from the air. Maya returned to her shifts at the hospital, where the familiar hum of monitors and distant voices felt strangely grounding. She still thought about Tom and the kids, but the thoughts didn't sting anymore. They arrived gently, like ripples instead of waves. During her break, she sat in the courtyard outside the hospital, watching the sunset catch on the glass windows. A nurse passing by smiled. "You look peaceful," she said. Maya smiled back, realizing she was. For the first time, peace didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like truth finally settling where it belonged. On her day off, Maya cleaned the apartment top to bottom. Each folded blanket, each cleared counter felt like an exhale she'd been holding for years. In the process, she found the photo of her and Tom as kids, the one from the beach. All sand and laughter. For a moment, she traced their faces with her thumb. They looked so unbreakable then. She didn't cry. She just placed it back on the shelf, not as a reminder of what was lost, but of what had survived. Sometimes healing wasn't about forgiveness. It was about acceptance, knowing that love could exist even after it changed shape. That weekend, Maya took a walk through the park near her building. She passed families picnicking on the grass, children's laughter echoing like music. She found an empty bench beneath a tree and sat, eyes lifted to the shifting leaves. She remembered her mother's voice again, softer this time, not as a ghost but as comfort. "You look after each other, no matter what." The words didn't sting now. They simply belonged to a different version of love, one she could honor without losing herself. Maya tilted her head back and let the sunlight fall over her face. She didn't need anyone's approval to feel whole anymore. Later that evening, her phone buzzed. A new message from Tom. A photo of Sam and Emma grinning, holding a handmade card that read, "We love you, Aunt Maya." No caption, no apologies, just that. She stared at it for a long time before typing a reply, "I love you too. Tell them to call me this weekend." When she hit send, she felt no bitterness, only warmth. Some truths burned everything down. Others built something new in their ashes. That night, Maya stepped onto her balcony. The city stretched before her, windows lit, streets humming, the quiet pulse of life continuing. She leaned against the railing, breathing in the cool air, letting it fill the spaces that had once been occupied by resentment. She wasn't the same woman who'd answered that phone weeks ago. She was someone who had stopped mistaking silence for peace and guilt for love. Somewhere out there, her brother was learning too. Maybe not perfectly, but trying. Maya smiled softly to herself, whispering into the night, "We're okay, Mom." And for once, it felt true. Sunday morning arrived, wrapped in quiet promise. The city was still half asleep, the streets washed clean by the night's rain. Maya brewed coffee and opened her windows, letting the soft air move through the apartment. She felt lighter. Not because everything was fixed, but because she no longer needed it to be. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a video call from Tom. Emma's face filled the screen first. Messy hair and a gap-toothed smile. "Aunt Maya. Daddy made pancakes and didn't burn them." She giggled. Tom appeared behind her, mock offended. "That's a lie. They're gourmet," Maya laughed. A real, effortless sound that surprised even her. "Save me one," she said. And for the first time in years, it didn't feel like pretending. After the call, Maya set her phone down and stood by the window, sipping her coffee. The city below shimmered in early sun, and somewhere, a church bell rang. For a moment, she thought of her mother again, not as a memory bound to grief, but as a steady presence, woven into every lesson, every boundary finally drawn. Maya whispered, "You were right to tell us to look after each other. I just needed to learn how to look after myself too." The words hung softly in the air, neither prayer nor confession, just truth. Later, she walked to the park again, the same path she'd taken days before. Children ran past, chasing kites and bubbles, their laughter rising like music. She found her bench beneath the tree and sat, a quiet smile curving her lips. Her phone chimed. A message from Tom. "Family dinner next weekend? My treat this time?" Maya stared at the words for a long moment, then typed back, "I'll think about it." Not out of spite, but because she finally could. Choices no longer came from guilt. They came from freedom. She slipped her phone into her pocket and watched the sky open wide above her. As the afternoon faded, Maya walked home through the golden hour glow. The streets were alive with families, laughter, and light. She passed a bakery, its window filled with pastries she couldn't resist. Inside, she bought two. One for herself, one to bring to the hospital night shift later. The cashier smiled. "Good day." Maya thought for a moment before answering. "Yeah, a good one." She meant it. Not perfect, not easy, but hers. That night, Maya walked home beneath the hum of streetlights. The sky above was deep and endless, and for the first time, she didn't feel small beneath it. She unlocked her apartment, placed the spare pastry on the counter, and paused, listening to the city's heartbeat through her window. She picked up the framed photo again, the one of her and Tom as children, and placed it back where it belonged, not as a burden, but as a beginning. In the reflection on the glass, she saw herself, not the caretaker, not the forgotten sister, but the woman who finally told the truth. And in that stillness, she smiled.